Realtree's Midwest Whitetail is brought to you by Cabela's, Cuddyback, America's Best Bowstrings, Drake Non-Typical, Easton Arrows, Frigid Forage, Fuse, Grizzly Coolers, and Realtree.
Day 23, November 8th. Are you good? Go to the doe. The morning started off with a bang, literally. It's pretty funny because it's the first time I've ever done this, and it's the first time I've ever seen it. I knew because of the way, it's a squirrel, I think. The way that we came in this morning, we messed it up. We walked too far before we cut down to the tree stand, and we left scent right where the deer walk. And I knew it was going to be a doe shooting day because I knew there was no way that we were going to get away with that. Every single doe that came through there was going to pick up our ground scent where we went through there. You know, it was just a boneheaded mistake on my part. But so this doe stopped, and there was a decent 8-pointer behind her. I think he's a 3 or 4-year-old buck. If I had to guess, I'd say he's 3. But I tried to shoot the doe, and there was a little tiny fork in this tree that I had to shoot through. I mean, it was literally like that. But I mean, you can shoot an arrow through a gap that's that wide at, 5 feet in front of the bow. What I didn't account for was the fact that even though my line of sight was good, that my arrow comes out below my line of sight and just dead center smacked this branch. So the arrow is stuck in there. And there's no way I'm getting that arrow down. Every time I hunt this spot from now on, that arrow is going to be a reminder of 2 things. Don't walk in on the wrong route and leave scent in the wrong places. And 2, you better know exactly the flight path of your arrow. Your line of sight can look perfectly clear, and yet your arrow can still hit something. So, it's way early. I mean, this is really early for the deer to be back in here, so I'm not worried that we messed up the morning at all. They weren't that spooked, that buck and that doe. So there's a lot of action yet to come, hopefully this morning. It's really still. It was supposed to be like a 5 to 7 mile per hour wind, but I would say it's more or less dead calm. So I'm going to put another arrow on the bow and hopefully not have a repeat performance of that fiasco. He's the same buck we filmed in here doing that 3 days ago, right below the tree. I almost guarantee it's the same deer. It's just a little bit after 10, and we're going to start packing up here pretty soon and do a little bit of work in the office for midday and then get back out again. We heard a really impressive knockdown, drag-out fight down in the valley. And it's about probably 200 yards, 250 yards away. But the upper end of that valley is a spot that I call the tube. And I have a redneck blind down in there. I don't like to hunt valleys unless I'm in a blind. There's too much swirling wind. At least in the blind, you can keep the windows shut. You can run the ozonics whenever you open a window, and you can contain your scent and control your scent a lot better. So I think that's where we're going to go this afternoon. I had a I do still have a cutty back camera down there, and there's a lot of activity going through there. Just a little narrow bottleneck that the deer travel between one big and beastie plot and another, and they just move up and down the valley. And that is the south end of the Big Sevens range. We've had a few pictures of him on that camera. So it's a great spot for this afternoon. I'm excited about that. But before I let you go, there's another blog on the Midwest Whitetail Daily page that Owen Riegler is putting out. And I watched his blog this morning, and Owen was singing the blues that he doesn't have as many views as I do on his blogs. And he thinks just because he's after these great big giant deer that everybody's going to want to watch his stuff. He doesn't realize that my personality is just so dynamic and so interesting that people will watch my blog even when I'm hunting these little spikes that we've been seeing coming past the stand. But in seriousness, Owen does have some really cool stuff on his blog, so check that out. He does deserve a lot more viewers, and he's doing a great job in hunting some really good deer. So pop over and check out Owen's blog. Of course, Jared's got a really good blog too that I know a lot of you are already watching. So that's going to be pretty much it for this morning. I'm going to show up next, heading towards the redneck blind down in this valley, a couple hundred yards from where I'm sitting right now. It's about 2:45, and we've been down in the blind here for hour and a half or so, hour to hour and a half. And the deer have been out the whole time. They were in the plot to the left when we snuck down here, and it's really been very little break when we haven't had deer in here. You can see they've just mowed that big and beastie right to the ground. This is a tube that we put in that allowed us to make a crossing to go back and forth between these two food plots. But the deer have adopted that as their own little funnel, their own little superhighway through here. So it's a good natural spot for bucks to be moving during the rut. That's why we're sitting here. It's not too far from where we heard that big fight this morning. So it'll be interesting, at least knowing that there were a couple of mature bucks down in this bottom, because the fight that we heard wasn't by two small antlered deer. You can tell by just the sound of the clashes that it was deer that had some pretty decent mass in their antlers. One last thing before I go back to looking out the windows here, but I thought it was interesting this morning when I hit that branch dead square with that wasp jackhammer and that Easton FMJ. It went all the way through it and stuck about 1.5 feet out the other side of that branch. And we looked at it closer, and none of the blades on that mechanical broadhead broke. So that was a good testimonial to the strength of that broadhead. I was pretty impressed. I for sure expected that it would have shaved the blades off that broadhead going through that branch, but it didn't. So I'm favorably impressed with the jackhammer after that. My own little impromptu penetration test. So let's get back to hunting here. I'll update you in a couple of hours as we get closer to the end of the evening. We're down to about the last 15 minutes here, and it's been very action-packed. I had that buck that I saw back in early October. The only other time we've sat in this blind, he came out, and I considered him to be a possible shooter at that time. he was within 50 yards tonight, and just wasn't. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to take a 50-yard shot, but I wasn't 100% sure that I was, going to shoot that deer, even if he would have came right through this little crossing in front of me. So it was good to know, though. I mean, he's still around. He's a mature buck, fully mature. I'd say if I had to guess, I'd say he's probably 6 years old. We had several does come through, and it really bugged me knowing that I've got a number of them that I need to remove from the farm yet. It really bugged me that I wasn't able to shoot those deer tonight. Obviously I could have, but the biggest problem you've got then is you've got to recover the deer. So I'd have to come back in here with the four-wheeler, and there's no doubt that I would have disturbed this area quite a bit. One last quick note, we kept the windows closed on the blind. We opened them up, cracked them, got them ready in case we needed to open them to shoot out of. But the deer were all directions around us, every direction. I have no idea even what direction the wind was blowing, but nothing picked us up. So I thought that was pretty cool. These redneck blinds down in these valleys like that with the windows closed, it's a perfect solution. The trick, of course, is figuring out when to open the window if the shot comes, but that's a problem that we would have enjoyed trying to solve. But just being able to sit in here and have deer all around us, very close, not a single one of them even raised its nose. That was pretty cool. So tomorrow, I'm not hunting. Our daughter is running college cross country, and they're going to be in Peoria, Illinois tomorrow, so we're going to be there, watching the cross-country meet. But I will be back in the woods again on Saturday, so keep checking back. I appreciate you joining me here, and we'll see you back here in a couple days.